Hello and welcome to Being Anxiety Free. My name is Emma Upton and I'm here to spill the tea on what it actually means to be anxiety free, to know who you're here to be, what you're here to do, so the unique gifts that are locked in the codes of your DNA get to flow through you and into the world. So let's dive in together. Good morning. Welcome to episode 19. I know this might sound basic, but the concept behind I learned to love to laugh again. And the reason I'm sharing this is because I was so serious, and a lot of the brilliant beings that I meet that are here for so much more, that are here for a purpose that is so much bigger, are so serious. The idea of just taking life lightly can feel tricky because there's a lot going on. And it can feel heavy and it can feel weighty, but I had to teach myself to find lightness in life again. I split the brain, the conscious brain, into 3 parts so I'm able to identify it more readily. And Frances is the pink part, the one that we're focusing on today. She is the part of the brain that doesn't want fun. No, it's serious. We've got to take it all so serious. It's a very... And don't mishear me here. I know there's a lot going on. I know there's a lot of weight, there's heaviness, but identifying with that heaviness all of the time just puts us in fight and flight. It puts us in the conscious brain. It puts us in that thinking part of the brain that keeps us outside of ourselves, trying to navigate this world. If we rely out there for our stimulus to find joy and bring joy, we're not going to. The work that I have found for myself and that I teach and that it works on other people as well, which blows my mind, is that when we get to identify where that part of our brain is, where that Francis part of our brain is that's going about life being like, no, we have to be so serious, we have to be so sensible, you have so much to do, you have a family, you have a business, you have a house, you have, the world is serious, you have all this serious stuff that you need to focus on, Emma. And it's true. I'm not going to pretend that it's not. But when we can learn how to identify that part of our brain and how it is so dedicated to being so super serious, when we can learn to identify that over and over again, that's why I've got the pinks on. The pinks here, the pinks, like all the pinks today. Looking out, being like, where is my brain making me so super serious about this? And where can I switch it into something different? Where can I see myself being so serious? Like, no, you have to go about all of this and figure it all out. Well, we can't. Let's be truly, madly, deeply honest with ourselves. We can't. There are things that we can do, but in the main, we're pretty limited in what that actually looks like. So, I learned to laugh again. And it was a happy, sad moment. The first time that I really proper belly rumbled with my husband. We've been together for, I was getting it wrong, 22 years, 23 years, something like that. And I just laughed. There was something that came up that I'd usually be so serious about. Francis would be lit about, this is serious, we need to figure it out, like, this isn't funny, da da da. And I just laughed. And my husband stopped and looked at me and was like, it is so good to hear you laugh. It makes me emotional. I was like, yes, it feels so good to laugh. It doesn't mean that the stuff's not there. It doesn't mean that we're not going to figure out and make a plan and do the things that actually bring a tangible result. But being so serious about it for so much of the time, oh, how exhausting. I remembered, because it's not, the title needs to be I remember to love to laugh again, doesn't it? Not I learned to love to laugh again. We know how to do this. Look at children. If they are left to their own devices, they crack up at the most ridiculous stuff. And all the adults are like, what? That's funny? And they're like, yeah, it's amazing. Like, you don't see it. And the adults are like, no. My children and I say the biggest insult that you can give me is to say, you sound like a grown-up. Because we don't see the joy, we don't see the fun, we don't see the opportunities. Our brain is so wide. We let Francis lead our life, and It's so wired for being serious and looking for danger and taking care. And I'm not saying like, don't be safe. That's what the brain wants to delete you. That says, oh, you're saying go out and be frivolous and not unsafe. No, I'm saying make the moves, take the action, do the thing in the 3D, do the adulting, but bring a different energy to it. Bring a more joyous energy. Bring laughter in. Like, how many times could you have just looked at life when it's stacking up one thing after another, after another, after another, and you're like, what is happening? And we get more serious about it. Well, what we get to do is when it's stacking up one thing after another, then we go, like, this is literally hysterical. This is like, how? How can this just continue to be building in the way it is? If I don't laugh, you know you're in a good place. You're like, if I don't laugh, I'll cry. Sometimes we need to cry, and then we can find the joy. Then we can find the humor. Then we can shift it into a different space outside the conscious brain. When we are on the lookout for when we're being so serious, what I do is I recognize, oh, like this is happening and I want to go in really hard and be super serious. I see that. I still want to do it. I did it for 30 plus years. My Frances is lit. She's a control freak. She loves organising everyone. She loves getting the results. Like, she's still there. So I notice her. I wear my pinks. I submerge myself in watermelons. Not literally. I'm not in a watermelon sea, but the taste, the smells of watermelons, the colours of pinks, they are my triggers, my sensory piggyback hack trigger for looking out for Frances. And when I see her wanting to be serious, it's not funny. How could you find that funny? I challenge myself to be, well, could it be a little bit funny? Like, could we find something to giggle at? And what I do, I've got shorts saved to my phone. I've got a folder of lols. And if I'm in that moment where my Frances is being really loud and there's something going on that requires more from me, I literally will listen and look at silly things. There's a Beyonce video, A Girl in a Mask. Have you ever seen it? She's like dancing to Beyonce. She swings her head. It sounds really mean. She's laughing. And she bangs her head. And that will get me every time. What makes you laugh? Wear your pinks, wear your watermelons, do the sensory piggyback hack. And when you see a pink and a watermelon, be like, where's my brain in this? Where's my Frances in this? Is she out there making it super serious? We need to figure this out. It's so serious. Can you bring joy and laughter to it? And you challenge yourself. Our life doesn't get to change. Our brain wants to go to the same neurological patterns it's known for forever. It will always go there. Our life changes astronomically and becomes inconceivable when we want to do this. So the reason that the piggyback and sensory hack and the fine formula works so well for me is because I really want to see it. So I will wear my pinks. I literally, because my Frances is loud, I will wear my pinks. And when I see them, I'm like, I wonder where she is. What am I thinking? What am I judging? What am I being so super serious about? What am I trying to figure out? Interesting. Is that helpful for me? No. I want to interrupt it. And in that moment, I will actively do something that shifts me, and it requires more energy in the brain than we want to give it. But then I always say to myself, oh my gosh, I am using so much energy being so serious all the time. And I'm using so much energy doing that. I'm willing to exert this additional energy that it doesn't feel like I've got right now because there's a lot going on. I'm willing to do that to challenge my brain into a new neurological pattern, because soon the compound effect of doing that enough times means that the brain actively wants to do that. So when something ridiculous happens, my husband will say to me, like, this isn't an appropriate response, Emma. And I'm like, I don't care. For who? Who isn't this inappropriate? Like, I'm not living my life for anybody else. For me, learning to live in laughter and joy and ease and be like, I'm sure there's a different angle I can look at this with. That is so powerfully helpful for me to navigate this bizarre world. So I go there. So something comes up, I see it. something comes up that's challenging and I want to be super serious, I'm like, how do I make this light? How do I make this fun? I want to. And I use the pinks throughout the day to remind me of my Frances, to remind me when to see her when she's being super serious. And I switch. I call it the switch. I switch my energy around. And I've got my little go-tos, and you'll have your go-tos as well. Like, what brings you joy? Is it a picture of your kid, your cat, your dog? Like funny fails, like laughing at other people's misfortunes, whatever it is for you that gives you a giggle inside the belly of your existence. Doing that in that moment, and what it does, it interrupts the brain neurology of like, oh, we need to be serious about everything all the time. No, we get to look and seek joy, even in really challenging situations. Oh, the brain is literally, I can hear my brain so often be like, oh, we can do that? I'm like, yes, just as easily as what we were so serious and sad all the time. We can literally switch it. It's a decision of, oh, my brain goes this way more often than not, so I'm going to switch it into something else. And the more often I do that, my brain starts to go, oh yeah, we can go that way just as easily. Like, I can set up the neurology whichever way you want. Like, we've done that for quite a while. We can go here. That's like, no probs, babes. I can do that. And the more often we wear the sensory hacks, we look for those moments of where the brain's going off on a tangent that we just don't want it to, and be like, I don't want that anymore. I want this. I'm going to show you again and again. And sometimes you're like, I've done this so many times. I just wanted to be there. And quite often, that is the time where that the universe is going, you sure you want something different? You're making a lot of noise. You're doing a lot of things, but it'd be so much easier, wouldn't it? Simpler. Go there. We're like, no. And then it switches. And then we have a new pattern inside our mind of like, oh, we go there when things feel serious and rough. Like, we can see the lightness. We can see through it. We can see the patterns because we've done it often enough. If you have a very serious Frances that spends her life organising and figuring everything out, today's episode is probably the one for you. Maybe go back, maybe listen to it again. Wear your watermelons so that when you're out on the lookout today, be looking out for your brain like, where am I trying to be so super serious? And how can we bring lightness and joy into it? Do that enough, and that becomes your default setting for looking at life. Happy Wake Up Wednesday. Much love.